When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? Finding out they have an inner circle group chat but I'm the only one not in it.
When my phone got stolen and I lost their phone numbers. Mine stayed the same, but we just never talked again.
I was invited to the bachelorette party for one of the friends in this group. While at the party, I figured out that I was the only person not invited to the wedding. I had been invited to the party because they needed another person to chip in for expenses.
One friend stopped replying to my texts right after we graduated from college. Like the same week we graduated. So, I was pretty much just a study buddy that they kept close to keep me helping them.
I wouldn't say I have fake friends, but I am definitely the periphery friend. The majority of the time, if there isn't enough tickets or space in the car for everyone to go do something, I'm the one who gets cut out. It doesn't bother me much, but I wish they would be more mindful when talking to me about things we have done. Remember when we went to C30? Wasn't that fun? Well, no, because I wasn't invited. In those situations it usually gets awkward, or they say, hey, we would have invited you if we had the tickets, space, etc.
After my divorce, we were couples friends, not individually.
This was quite a few years ago. My ex and I were really friendly with another couple. Did a ton of stuff together. Then they moved, not far, and fairly shortly after my ex and I separated. They hung out with me for a few months but then stopped calling. A few years later, I ran into both of them at a race, an ultramarathon, and they both pretended like they didn't know me. That was actually a really painful moment.
When they stopped contacting me when I stopped drinking.
The group made plans to meet and hang out. I was getting ready in the salon. A couple of friends had to back out for some reason. The other friend then made excuses of his own, and I could tell. I tried cajoling him and offer ways for him to go, but he basically decided to cancel the entire group meetup. It was my birthday.
When I realized I was the one always calling. Then I stopped and, friends, disappeared.
Once high school ended, I heard about all the rumors they made up about me.
Whenever we were supposed to hang out, something came up, and that something was hanging out with other mutual friends.
I stopped smoking weed and they stopped coming round. Edit, that's a lot of upvotes. I'm sorry so many of you seem to have had similar experiences. You'll make new friends if you haven't already. To the people saying there's nothing wrong with this, then I'd like to respectfully disagree. These were people I considered close friends, it wasn't just some guys and gals I shared a hobby with. Please don't be so quick to judge when you have very little context.
When I went through a divorce and was down to $700, most difficult period, and weeded out all those who friended me for my generosity because I was well settled. Started over and have like 2 true good friends. Edit, thank you all for your well wishes and wisdom-filled comments. Incredible how sometimes you get more support and well wishes from strangers than folks who led you to believe to be your well-wishers. Smile.
When they ghosted me after 17 years of close friendship. I still have no idea what I did wrong. And for extra salt in the wound, it was right after I spent a week eating instant noodles because I donated every cent I had to one of them for her cancer treatment GoFundMe. Hurt more than any relationship breakup. Edit. For all those asking, yes, she definitely has cancer. No, she didn't die. And given that it was more than one person who ghosted me and that the cancer friend still maintains an active social life with everyone else but me, it's probably not for reasons related to her ordeal.
Like I suspect for a lot of people, getting divorced was a real eye-opener. I started with a core group of close friends who had all met in our late teens, early 20s, and one of them introduced me to the woman who I would ultimately marry. Well into our 40s they were what I considered to be my family, but when the divorce happened things spiraled. My best friend stuck with me, but his wife was the one who orchestrated things in our group, and she was best friends with my ex. I was expecting the two of them to insulate for a while, and I knew it was painful for my ex to be around me, so it was no surprise when I stopped getting invitations to cookouts, etc. But then I noticed that the other members of the group were also ignoring me. I'd see on Facebook that one of them came into my town to go to a concert for a band that they knew I liked and hadn't so much as texted. Birthdays rolled around and nobody would call. When my parents both died within a few months of each other and not a one of them reached out, I knew where I stood. My best friend needs to get credit though. Alone from all of them, he made a consistent effort to stay in touch and see me regularly. He was there when my parents died and through everything else, even though his wife clearly disapproved. I think finally, after this nonsense had been going on for several years, he told her how ridiculous it all seemed, and that entire friend group tried to reconcile. I made it clear right from the start that there was no guarantee that I'd ever find space for them in my life again. This is all very apropos right now because they are having their first big post-COVID party in a couple weeks and I'm invited. People are coming in from all over the country and the only one I give a beep about seeing is my buddy.
When you try to open up and try to share a genuine conversation about something going on in your life and all they can do is crack jokes and try to get you to go out drinking with them. Made me realize how surface level many friendships really are. Then you have the opposite of that. 3 guys I've known since I was a freshman in high school. Been friends for over 15 years. Have stayed in touch through all of us getting married, having kids, and moving to completely separate areas or the country. Yet whenever we're within an hour of each other, we always make a point to get breakfast and catch up. This usually turns into 3+ hour conversations. This may only happen once or twice a year, but I consider those guys my best friends. That's real friendship and I'm fortunate to have them.
When I was in school, all my friends and I did different A levels. Despite us all having different lessons to each other, they would wait for each other to go to lunch together, but they would always forget me. Like I'd come out and they wouldn't be there, so I'd have lunch by myself. And then they'd come back and tell me they thought I was with them. I was the only one they didn't wait for. I've only seen one of them since we left school. She had forgotten my name. So that sucked.
This friend, I'll call her Mary, had kids the same age as mine. We got together for play dates pretty often and our kids would sleep over at each other's houses for weekends. I liked Mary. We would often visit and talk while our kids were playing. One weekend, her kids had stayed at my house. The older one called her mom to see when she was coming to pick her up. I was in the room, and the kid put the phone on speaker for some reason. Mary told the kid what time she would be there and added, "You had better be waiting outside. If I have to go in and spend the next hour talking to River Tom, I'm going to be really pissed." We didn't spend much time together after that. Edit, I'm getting a lot of similar questions and comments, so I'll add an edit here instead of writing the same answer a dozen times. Did I overreact? Was Mary just having a bad day and not want to talk? And, my personal favorite, River Tom, maybe you're just insufferable? Here's what happened after I overheard my friend say that to her child. I simply stopped initiating contact and wasn't as available to do stuff for her. When we dropped off or picked up the kids, I smiled and waved. I let the kids make the plans for play dates. I no longer had time to help her with her garden or watch her kids while she went out with another friend. They were into long distance running, which is not my cup of tea. She never contacted me unless she wanted something. This had always been true, but I had not realized it. The friendship eventually fizzled out on its own. So, I guess it had never been much of a friendship to begin with. I just didn't realize it until she opened my eyes.
My friends from high school all unfollowed me when I graduated college. I'm the only one who no longer lives in our hometown.
I was at a party, really depressed after a bad breakup and got drunk. My abusive ex showed up, caught me somewhere alone and hit me. I begged several friends for help since I was too drunk to drive home alone and they ignored me. My ex-best friend was there, completely sober and refused to drive home with me because she didn't believe he would do that. There's no Uber or anything in my country BTW. The whole thing escalated. One guy I didn't know ended up finding me alone in a field crying and throwing up, brought me back to the house, built a bed out of blankets for me and sat guard all night to make sure my ex wouldn't do anything again.
This was also when I realized who were my friends and who weren't. We were supposed to go to a tour and we save our money and pooled them. Fake friends told me they had to cancel the plan because ticket prices got too high. Told me to wait a few days to get my money back. Real friends asked me why I bailed on them, and were worried that I had an emergency. Turns out my fake friends didn't want me to come and instead would use my money for their booze and told everyone else that I bailed out and took my money back so everyone else would give more for their booze allowance. That friendship ended and I also learned my fake friends were alcoholics and weren't strangers to beep over people to get what they want. Today one of them is alive. Their alcoholism ruined their lives and some even died from it.
When I traded in my truck for a smaller, more eco-friendly vehicle. Communication plummeted now that I can't haul furniture around, assist with moving as much, dispose of garbage, etc.
I flew out to support a friend going through a messy divorce. While I was there, she left me in the apartment to meet up with her boyfriend that I didn't know about. He turned out to have just been released from prison for manslaughter. Once she told me that, I told her that I didn't want to spend time with him, especially considering the circumstances of my visit. The next night, I woke up in the middle of the night to find him in the living room. She said that she thought it wouldn't matter since I was asleep. The next day, she invited her soon-to-be ex-husband over without telling me and then asked me to meditate their conversation once he got there. That conversation turned ugly fast, and she ended up storming out. He broke down and asked if I thought it was salvageable, and I told him that she had already moved on. Maybe not the best idea on my part, but at that point, she had shown me how vile of a person she is.
Shortly realized after quitting cocaine that a majority of my friends only kept me around so they could feel better about their own cocaine habits. I was heavily addicted and setting myself down a path I never once thought I could or would take. Stopped for my own benefit and health, and was treated like a selfish piece of beep for doing so. The next months ensued and not one of them checked in to see how I was doing, but instead my high school best friend started sleeping with my ex-high school girlfriend. I was with her for 5 years and actually thought I was going to marry her at one point, who dumped me for doing cocaine and is now an honorary member of the group I was cast out of. Replaced with the person who partially fueled my substance abuse, who dumped me for substance abuse, by the group that didn't like me stopping my substance abuse, so they could all abuse substances together. It's now been over a year since I quit, and honestly couldn't be happier. Got rid of a cocaine addiction and about 1,000 pounds of dead weight. But it was an eye-opener to say the least.
They would invite each other to places in front of me and not include me in the slightest. When I ditched them, they didn't know how to take it, lol.
They stopped inviting me to hang out. They would ask me to drive them to parties, but not invite me to go to the parties. They basically ghosted me for a while. They were once such amazing and important friends, but they gradually became really arrogant. It took a way longer than it should have to give up and find other people.
For me, it was when I got in some deep trouble and they all just cast me aside without even giving it a second thought. I realized this when I invited all of them to go to the movies with me and they all said they couldn't go. I then found out through one of them that they went to see that movie the same day, and when I asked then why they didn't tell me they were going, they said, "We just wanted to go together." Beep, broke my heart.
On this note, if anybody wants a new friend, hit me up.
When I was babysitting her kids, things were going great. We would hang out all the time, have movie nights and just talk and chill. But the second she no longer needed a babysitter was the second I got kicked to the curb. No explanation. Not even a text back. Some people will act like your best friend until they no longer need you. Their loss though.
A lot of so-called friends aren't real friends. They're more like acquaintances, people you know and are civil with. There's at least one that is fake, though. He or she has you in their life solely to benefit from. It can be financially, it can be emotionally. It can just be because he or she thrives on your failures. Some people keep you around as something to gawk at. Harsh but true.
When I realized literally just being in the same room as that person made me miserable. It's because the person was extremely self-conscious, to the point that they would overcompensate by putting others down, every little chance they had, to make themselves feel above. I kept wondering why they would keep throwing me under the bus for no reason. Like we had been friends for years, why would they treat me like this? It took me years to figure out exactly how bad of a friend they were, no matter how hard they pretend not to be. It took me an entire year of ghosting to stop being friends with that person, because they loved putting me down so much they wouldn't stop calling me, texting me, trying to contact me for a year with no responses because they could not understand how someone could possibly want to stop hanging out with them because they are so perfect.
When I broke up with my long-term boyfriend, the guy I thought had been my best friend of 3 years gave me 2 weeks before saying, "Is it my turn yet?" Beep garbage.
When I slowly realized I was only around for chores and errands. Rides to the airport, pick up furniture, help move. Anything social always resulted in either last-minute cancellations, showing up 45 minutes late and bolting after 10 minutes. I thought they were busy, but no.
When I got sober, 7 months today.
When they abandoned me when I was going through a rough time. When I spent years listening and supporting them. When I have my first true moment where I am not coping and need support, they are nowhere to be seen and beep behind my back. This is when I realized my high school friends never had grown up past high school. Luckily, I had other friends. Just not a large girl group like that. But I can actually say that every friend I have, I know they have my back and won't judge me if I am not always happy. And the same for me. I have always had very high expectations of myself as a friend, and I feel that everyone I call a friend is someone that brings something special to my life. That is worth more than having a huge group of beep girlfriends who turn on each other when they are out of the room. It took me a long time to realize it though.
Vexin' stuff, for me it was like it was for Stratabits. Only I didn't go bankrupt. I intervened, 3 guys assaulting 1 guy. Long story short, guy the first stopped to help leaves and the 3 guys assault me. A couple of collapsed lungs, many broken bones, a pneumohemothorax, brain damage, frothing pink from the mouth because my lungs were full of blood, and a couple of heart stops later mixed with cognitive issues. I lost my house, job, savings, 401k, every single thing I owned but a car. I wasn't good enough for my sister, and all but 5 of my closest friends. My wife stayed with me through it all, and without her I would never made it. My remaining friends gave me hundreds of dollars, a registered and insured van, a new job, restored faith in humanity, and the support I needed to pick myself back up. All because of money. It taught me a very valuable lesson about people. You learn who is behind the curtain.
One friend at university tried to steal my animation coursework, claim it as his own, and get me kicked out for stealing his work. However, I had help setting things up by one of my tutors, professors, for me to film the coursework, so he instead got expelled and blacklisted from the university and any other university in the UK doing the same subject. The people running all the animation degrees in every university in the UK, back then, knew each other and talked to each other regularly as it a small community. I think there were less than half a dozen universities with animation degrees back then. This was 20-ish years ago now. Edit. Grammar and spelling.
When my longtime friend called me and said, "Hey, can you hang out? No one else can."
When I left their church.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.